live. It's Monday Night Football. Very exciting. We are on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram. But honestly, probably mostly just YouTube and TikTok. All right. We're live. We're doing it. We're all here. We're ready. We want to talk fantasy football. Help your question out. Obviously, you either have to worry about the end of week 17 or looking ahead for week 18 and your championship round. I am on YouTube. I play YouTube Fantasy. Not YouTube. I play Yahoo Fantasy. And actually, they end everything after the 17th week, which, strangely enough, is actually a good thing because you don't have to worry about people getting sit out as much, not playing. That's what you don't want when you're going for the championship. So we're here, we're live. I'm ready to help you with any questions you have going into. Let me just fix this camera a little bit so I don't look so darn tall. All right. What fantasy questions do y'all have? What can I help with? What can I hurt with? St. Brown and Goff go over 50 fantasy points tonight. Goff could go 30. St. Brown could get 20. I don't think it's likely. I think it's like 30% that happens because St. Brown hasn't been, he did have 33 like 2 weeks ago. It could happen. Maybe it's 50-50. Maybe it's 50-50. Need Gibbs and Jamo to score under 50 combined to win. Thoughts? Yeah, I think that happens. I think Jamo at most gets 20-25. I think Gibbs probably gets 20-25, so they'll probably be underneath that. I think Jamo probably gets in the teens. If, Gibbs probably gets 20-25. Jamo gets anywhere from 10-25. So you should be in good shape. I'd say you have a 75% chance of them being under 50 points tonight. So pretty good chance. All right, over on YouTube, we're still waiting for folks. Dev, thanks for following me. I appreciate it. Don't forget to share this live stream. I'll be live every day. It looks like all the games this for week 18 only go through Sunday. So I will be live talking fantasy through Sunday. And then next week, I'm going to pick up on two things, fantasy basketball, and I'll be doing daily fantasy. Probably be doing that like on Wednesday and Thursday next week, daily fantasy, because you can do that on playoff games. You can pick, one game and pick a quarterback and a running back and the wide receiver, and you can play people. So how are you doing in your own leagues? Well, I was in the finals in two. I had three teams. The one I made the playoffs on all three teams. I lost in the first round, and then in the other two, I won the first game. Then yesterday, I just got thrashed because the other teams had T. Higgins, they had Ladd McConkey. One team I think had both. So I was 0 for 2 in the championship, which is unheard of actually for me because usually I play 5 teams though. This year I just couldn't do it with doing all my live streaming. And I usually win 1 or 2. So anyway, I made the finals in 2, so it was pretty good. And the one was real close. It was about within 10 points. The other one was a little bit wider. I unfortunately picked Indianapolis's defense, which got -4. Should I start St. Brown or Debo with risk or St. Brown resting half the game? You think St. Brown's going to rest half the game? Don't they need to win this? Don't they want the number 1 seed? Do you think is St. Brown going to rest half the game? Is that what they're saying? Oh, I don't like that at all. Sorry about this, guys. This camera is, yeah. I might have to manipulate some things here because this stupid chair I'm in doesn't go down any lower. Are they saying that Amon-Ra is going to be rested? I don't think they're saying that. Williams ran away with the team lead in receiving yards. St. Brown's. Yeah, I don't think St. Brown is going to be rested, guys, because they want to get that number 1 seed. They want they want home field advantage throughout the playoffs, plus they're playing for a chance to win their division. So tonight, at least, they have something to play for. I just don't think Debo's gonna put up any points. If you're looking for points, I would play St. Brown. I think he plays the whole game or at least most of it. I'm up 10 and have Amon-Ra and he has Goff. Well, just do this. You're up 10. Worst case scenario, Goff scores 30, Amon-Ra scores 20. Goff probably ends up with about 25 and Amon-Ra, hopefully for your sake, gets 15 to 20 and you win. But I would say Goff is, good for at least 25. Down 1 point. I got Jamo and Gibbs. They have Goff. Well, Gibbs probably gets you 20-25. Goff probably gets you 20-25. And then Jamo's just icing in my mind. You want Jamo to at least get 10 in case Goff goes off and gets like 35 points. But I would say Gibbs and Jamo probably get you 30, 35 easy. Goff probably gets you 25. Do you believe Puka will play next week? Oh, they're in and they don't have anything to play for, right? They can't move any positions. Let me just look this up. They might rest him a little bit. See, that's why I don't like playing in week 18 because you have to make all these stupid decisions that you never had to do throughout the rest of the season. Okay, where's the NFC? Come on. Hold on. My computer's playing games on me now. Why is it not giving me the NFC? Oh my God. Hold on. I got NFC, I got AFC. Now let's go to the playoff. Oh, do I have to press something? No, there we go. Okay. Okay. This is a little weird. They're not giving me. Give me everybody. Yeah, there we go. This is stupid. Well, this is all different than they had even yesterday. Hold on a second. This is really annoying. Yeah, they're only giving me the teams that are like on the outside, or I don't know how they're breaking it down. This is so weird. Let's see. The Bills, Miami. What were you looking for? Puka. They made the playoffs, right? Clinched division. Yeah, so 10 and 6. Yeah, Puka might not play the whole game next week or this coming week. Hey, I'm up by 45. An opponent has Gibbs and St. Brown. You think I got it? Ooh, Gibbs probably gets 25. St. Brown on a good night might get 20. So, and that's both of them having really, really good nights. If they're up by a lot, they're probably going to sit them, like in the fourth. So you're probably good. Like if Detroit's up like 42-7 and they both are having big games, they're going to be sitting. If it's a close game, you just hope for a lower scoring close game. You don't want a 48-46 game because that means they're going to keep putting up points. Detroit has to win the game tonight because they want that number 1 seed. All right. Let me know about your questions. Yeah, man, I think you're fine. I think it's probably 60-40 that you're fine. Uh, I do worry Gibbs is probably good for 20 to 25 points. St. Brown 15 to 20. So you're it's probably 50-50, maybe 60-40. But if the game is a shootout, and it could be. I mean, Purdy's a good quarterback. It could be. It won't be good. But if it's a blowout and Detroit's winning by a lot, that should be good for you. Grando get 6 more than Kittle. Um, That's a lot. 6. I mean, that's a touchdown. So Grendo gets 18, Kittle gets 12. 16-10. Yeah, he could. I would say it's 50-50. I mean, Grendo's really only been the starter for like 2 or 3 games. It hasn't been like this long list that I can look at data and say, "Oh, yeah, he gets always between 14 and 18 points." I don't have that. He's had 25 and a 9 and a 9. So that's Garendo. So he's all over the place. And Kittle's been up and down. Like there's been times Kittle's had 5, and there's times he's had 15 recently. You think Lions bench players early tonight? Only if it's a blowout. They have to win, Yardy. Like, guys, unless I'm missing something, because remember, a lot of times when you guys ask questions, I take things very literally. The Lions have to win this because they have not won their division yet, and they want home field advantage through the playoffs. Remember, Minnesota's 14-2, Detroit's 13-2. They have to win tonight to match the Vikings. And I think they play each other next week, right? Let me just see. That's going to be, yeah. The Vikings play Detroit for basically the division, and I think it would be. Hold on here. I think it would be the number 1 seed. They would be 14-3. Yeah, somebody's going to go. Somebody's going to have 15. Well, if Detroit wins, okay, this is a whole nother thing. If Detroit wins, Minnesota and Detroit are tied at 14-2. Philadelphia's 13-3. Philadelphia, because Minnesota plays Detroit, Philadelphia can't win if Detroit wins tonight. Okay. They can't be the number 1 seed. But if Detroit loses and then Detroit beats the Vikings and Philadelphia wins next week, Philadelphia could theoretically, I guess, get the number 1 seed depending upon the tiebreak. I don't know where the tiebreak is in here. You think the Lions? I don't think they're going to bench people early, Yardy, because unless it's a blowout, they're not going to bench people early because they need to win tonight. Because right now Minnesota's in first place by a half a game. I'm up 10 and have Amon-Ra, and he has Goff. Well, you figure Amon-Ra gets 10, 15. That's a 20, 25 point difference. Goff probably gets 20 to 25. He kind of needs that to win. It's going to be real close. It's going to be really close. I would probably say you have a 40% chance because I think Goff gets 20, 25, and Amon-Ra might get 15. Now, remember, Amon-Ra had a couple weeks there where he was putting up under 10 points. That's my only fear about tonight. If you were up by 15, you were up by 20, no problem. But with Goff, he could get 25, 30, and then all bets are off. Is Gibbs going off tonight? I'm up by 48. I think Gibbs is going to get 25 on a good night. Maybe he touches 30, but that's about it. I'm saying Gibbs is good for 20 to 25. My joke yesterday, not that it was funny, but my joke yesterday was when Gibbs shows up at the stadium, he already has 15 points. Oh, here, hold on a second. I'll say the joke again real quick. I'll just bore you all with this. So when Gibbs, hey, Amanda, thank you for the rose. When Gibbs shows up to the stadium, he already has 15 points. Only the people on TikTok could hear that. There's some noises. Okay, I need Gibbs 19. I think Gibbs gives you 19, Harrison. I'm up 13, and my opponent's got St. Brown. I would think St. Brown's going to get more than 13. I would think St. Brown's going to get more than 13. You might get lucky. Maybe he has one of those games like he did a few weeks ago where he only was getting 9. How's Kittle going to do? If he does that, then you win. But I think he gets at least 15, St. Brown. They got to win this game to tie Minnesota for the NFC North. And then, then they play Minnesota next week. And that's going to be like that's a playoff game in my mind. Like Minnesota and Detroit, obviously that's a playoff game. That has a lot to it. How's Kittle going to do? Maybe if he's lucky, he gets 15. I'm guessing he'll be around 10. If he scores a touchdown, 12, 13, somewhere in there, somewhere between 10 and 15. Garendo or Debo PPR? I go Garendo because at least on a bad day he gets 9 points, where Debo sometimes on a bad day only gets 3. And Guerrero, he's had 9, 25, and 9 the last 3 games he's played. And Debo, yes, he had a good game last week, but before that, the 6 weeks before that, he had 5s and 3s. This is to win $1,200 full PPR. I'm currently in the lead by 49.5 points exactly, 49.2. My opponent has Gibbs and Jennings left, though. How do you like my odds? Okay, I like your odds. I don't think if Gibbs is getting over 25 points, it might be a blowout and they might take him out of the game. And Jennings has maybe a 30% chance, or let's just say a 40% chance of getting anything over 10 points, because Jennings either gets like under 10 points or like 20 or over. And the likelihood of that is he's probably about 30% of the time he does that. So you probably have a 70% chance of winning tonight. Definitely. So good luck, Dylan. I hope you win. That's a guy over on YouTube, guys. I'm on TikTok as well. I'm down 34 and have Purdy, Jamo, and Debo and Bates. Okay. If he has nobody else, I sleep with my socks on. Love the name, by the way. Oh, Z's here. I'll get the Z in just a second. Okay. I think Purdy gets you at least 20 or 25. Jamo should get you 10. Right. So let's just say that's 30. Debo might only get you 4, and Bates probably gives you 5 at least minimum. So you win. All right. Let's see. I'm behind. Okay. Thanks. No problem, Dylan. Yeah, I think you have a really good chance. Yeah, because he has Jennings. Jennings is highly inconsistent. How many fantasy points do you think Laporta will drop against the 49ers? Probably 10, give or take 2. I mean, Laporta's been doing okay, but he hasn't. Let me just see, because I looked him up yesterday. He might have had double digits more recently. Yeah, he's had 12, 14, 7, 14, 3. He had 14 against Buffalo. He had 12 against Chicago. He might get 12 to 14 tonight. I don't really expect much more than that, right? Liam, you don't have to spam me, buddy. Just send the question. I'll try to get to it. I'll do it right now, okay? I'm down 36. I have Purdy, Jennings, and trending has Barris. What the heck? I don't know what that means. When you spam me, do you read what you spam me? Like, because I don't know what trending has bear is. Opponent has Bates, maybe, but I don't know how opponent is trending. That's what the word trending throws me off, because opponents and trending. Anyway, I got to get the Z, but you have Purdy and Jennings. Purdy probably gets you 20, 25. Jennings either gets you 5 or he gets you 20. So you got to hope in the 30% chance when he gets that 20 or 25 that he does it tonight, and that Bates doesn't drop more than about 5 or 6. Yeah, I don't think you're going to do it unless Jennings has to go 20, Purdy has to go 25. That only gives you 45. Bates probably gets somewhere between 5 to 10. So if that's the case, if Jennings 30% of the time he has a big game, if he can do that, you have a shot at winning. Otherwise, I don't think you have much of a shot, Liam. You got to hope that Jennings has one of those big games, or if Purdy goes off and gets 50 points tonight, which I don't necessarily see happening. You need some mods in here to stop them from spamming. Yeah, I know. Well, if anybody wants to be a mod, let me know. I will sometime tomorrow I'll make you a mod. The caveat, though, being, and I should say this, is if I know you and you've been on my stream before. I'm not just going to pick any rando. All right, down 16. I have St. Brown and Kittle. He has Debo. Yeah, I think St. Brown probably gives you 15, 20. Kittle gives you 10. Let's just say that's 25. Debo could very well get you under 5. Or get him under 5 or under 10. So you have a good chance. I'd say it's 50-50. I'm down 8. He has Kittle. Do I play Guerrero or Jamo to win the championship? Oh, you're going to lay this on me, huh? I think Guerrero. Well, let me just look what Jamo's put up. The thing with Guerrero is I see his range at 9 to 25 points, because that's what he's got over the last 3 games, kind of when he's been the starter. Okay. So You have 9 to 25 that you can kind of play with and figure out like, oh, he's going to land hopefully somewhere in between there. Jamo has had 10, 11, 23, 7, 9. I don't know that Jamo has the ceiling Garendo has. He did get 23.5 against Chicago last week. But he might be the steadier pick because he's had from week 11, 20, 9.3, 7. Now, this is half PPR. If you're in full PPR, he's probably been in double digits every week. 10.5, 11.2, 23.5. So I would probably go Williams as the safe bet that can get you, 10 to somewhere in that range. Now, if you want to go with Garendo for the higher ceiling, you can do that. But I mean, Williams got 23 last week. He got 11 the week before, 10, 7, 9. He got 20 against Jacksonville. So I think he's steady, maybe at 10 points or 11 points, let's say Jameson Williams. So maybe his range is like 9 to 12, and Garendo's range is like 9 to 25. So, but he has risk behind it because I think it's going to be hard for Garendo to get to 25. I think he can get to 50, 15. I think he can get maybe a little bit higher, but I don't know that he tops over 15 by too much. Like, I think it's a stretch for him to get 20 unless he's just running all over the place. Now, Detroit is not as good against the run as they were earlier in the season, obviously, mostly because of injuries. They are, just so you know, not that this always matters, but they're 23rd. They give up 21.3 points to running backs. That doesn't mean Garendo's going to get 21 points. They're just 23rd out of 32 teams over the last 4 weeks and giving up those points. So I would say Jamo is kind of your safe pick. Zachary and Z's, you guys will be next. I know Z's is next and Zachary, although I only saw the one comment from Z's. So I will look for that. But I would say that, where was I? I'm down 7 points. I have pretty good, and he is Debo. Okay, Adidas Buggy. I think you're gonna win. I mean, I don't think Debo. I mean, unless Debo has a week like he had the week before. Now, actually, El Kukai. Yeah, I would consider, just to repeat, I would consider Jamo a steady 10 to 14, or let's say 9 to 14. Garendo is 9 to 25. If you want to take the risk, go with Garendo. I'm down 8. He has Kittle. Do I play Garendo or Jamo? You might have to play Garendo, hoping that he has a higher upside than Jamo. But Jamo probably at least gets you 10 to 14 points. It's just a question of what does Kittle do. Now, I'm guessing Kittle gets about 10, give or take 2 points. So 8 to 12 is his max. So you might want to look at that potential higher ceiling that Garendo has. But remember, he could maybe get 8 or 9 points, Garendo. But he has, 2 games ago got up to 25. Need 10 from Bates to win. It could happen. I mean, I don't think it's a guarantee. Let's just see what he's done recently. Recent play dictates or helps. He got 10 last week, 6, 11, 12. So 3 of the last 4 weeks, he's gotten 10 or over. So you have a 75% chance that he does it. And 10 isn't a big number. If it was 15, I'd say, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're on TikTok, hit that follow button. That would be awesome. Also, hit that like button where it's 7760. I'll get to you. I'll go back for Z and then I'll go to Zachary. Also, hit that like button on YouTube. You can only hit it once. TikTok, you can just keep hitting it. Okay, so let me scroll down. Z's. Is Charbonneau a good replacement for Jacobs? Also, I would like to be a mod. Okay, Z's. Well, send me. Okay, I hate to give you more work, but send me a DM on TikTok. You DM me on TikTok, right? Send me a DM on TikTok, but I'll make a note that you want to be a mod. That's great. And I'll put you in there probably sometime tomorrow. All right. So I'll put a little star by that, Z. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think Charbonneau could be. I mean, that's if Walker. Well, yeah, Walker's out. That's right. He's on IR. So yeah, Charbonneau could be. He didn't have a fantastic game though, but it's not a bad play. See, that's why I don't like playing Week 18. Jacobs not going to play, and he's probably one of the reasons you made it to the championship, or you made it through the season, or you made it to the playoffs, and now you can't even play him. And it's almost like for 1 week you have to redraft your team. You know, it kind of stinks. All right, so that was Z's. And the other one was Zachary. Sorry, Zach. Zachary, if Barkley sits, should I play Chainwell? It's Gainwell, isn't it? I'm not trying to be. I'm just thinking because I like that name Gainwell, because it's like the best running back name, or actually football name, like Gainwell, like Kenneth Gainwell. Oh boy, he gains well. Yeah, I guess. I mean, he is all over the place with yardage. 4 carries, 7 yards, 3 carries, 4 yards, 3 carries, 26 yards, 4 carries, 43 yards. I guess you'd have to. You'd have to. I mean, well, he's one you could. The other thing you could think about is like, do you have any other players? Well, Rashad White did not have a good week, but maybe he's available, or like someone said, Charbonnet or Tyrone Tracy. Some people have dropped over time. He might be another one, like somebody who's going to start this week that might be available, or like what you're doing, you could just go for that person's backup. Thank you for the ice cream cones, though, Zachary. It's nobody probably knows this, but I love ice cream. And I grew up in a very strict Catholic household, and we had to give things up for Lent. Um, anyway, you do that in Catholicism, and every year I would try to give up ice cream. And my birthday would usually happen during Lent, and I would always get a special dispensation to eat ice cream on my birthday, but I would always end up breaking down and eating it or sneaking it out of the freezer when nobody was watching. Up by 23 against Goff, and am I doomed? No, I think Goff gets 20 to 25. If the game begins to be a blowout, they're going to pull Goff. And San Francisco, guys, is a decent team defensively. Like, I know their record says one thing, and you're probably, of course, I said that last night about whose defense was I saying? Oh, I said the Bills' defense isn't very good. Well, it's not. It's not ranked very well, but the Jets just stink. But like for instance, okay, against quarterbacks, San Francisco's defense is number 5. They give up 18.0 points on average over the last 4 weeks against quarterbacks. Now, against running backs, they're 22nd. They're not good against the run, so that might help somebody like Gibbs. That should help somebody like Gibbs, but you just never know, because sometimes the teams do the opposite. They throw the ball more. Against wide receivers, they're actually number 3. They give up 15.0 points on average over the last 4 weeks against wide receivers. So they're pretty good. They're good against quarterbacks. They're good against wide receivers. I would expect to see a lot of pressure on Goff. That's why the numbers are low for wide receivers and for quarterbacks. So, all right, let's see. Okay, we're all over the map here. Can I still win? I have 39 points. Opponent has 133, and I have Goff, Gibbs, St. Brown, Jennings, and Bates. You literally have 100 points. And Caesar, I'm guessing he has no other players. So Goff, let's say on a really good night, gives you 25. Gibbs could give you 25. That's 50. St. Brown gives you 20. That's 70. Jennings, if he has a Jennings night and gives you 20, that would be great. That you get 90. And then Bates would give you 10. But Jennings is kind of the key there, unless Goff or Gibbs goes for over 30. Now, if Goff or Gibbs goes over 30, you don't have to worry about Jennings as much. But my guess is 25, 25, 20. Jennings has to get 20 points in my scenario. So I would say, and Jennings only does that about 30% of the time. So you have about a 30% chance of winning. I'm up 18. Opponent has Garendo. You should be okay. He may get 17. He may get 15. I expect him to get in the teens. It might be 13 though. Like I see his range is like 13 to 18. So you're probably good, but if he runs 2 touchdowns in, or he catches a touchdown and runs in a touchdown, that's 12 points right there. Not to mention the reception, the yards he ran, whatever the case might be. So you just got to hope that Guerendo stays out of the end zone. And that's one way that he won't get to 18 points. Can I still win? I have 39 points. Opponent has, oh, yeah. I already did that one. All right, let me go down to the bottom. Okay, where are we at here? Oh, stop it. Down 11, Debo or Guerendo? I would go Guerendo because Debo, yes, he got 25 points last week, but if you look at his points before this, his numbers are really low. They're 3, 5, 4, 5. I think Guerendo gives you at least 11 points tonight. Detroit is not great against the run, and I'm hoping that San Francisco and Shanahan have figured this out, and they're going to run Guerendo a few times. Will Goff start tonight? I believe he is. Guys, Detroit has to win. They're 13-2. They're a half a game behind Minnesota in the division at 14-2. And next week, this coming weekend, those two teams, Minnesota and Detroit, it's going to be a heck of a game, guys. You guys got to watch that game. It is the 7:20 game next Sunday night. I mean, it's a must watch. It's going to be like a mini Super Bowl kind of. So whoever wins that game wins the division. And if Detroit wins tonight, that game will be for the number 1 seed, bar none. Now, it could still be for the number 1 seed. I'm just not sure. If Detroit loses, Minnesota will have to win to get the number 1 seed over, or no, if Detroit loses and then Detroit wins the last game against Minnesota, it's whoever has the tiebreaker between those 3 teams, because I think they would all end up with the same. Brioche is here. They would end up with the same record, because right now, let me just check this and let me know, guys, if I'm wrong. Philadelphia is 13-3. Minnesota is 14-2, and the Lions are 13-2. If the Lions lose, they're 13-3, and they're tied with Philadelphia. But if Detroit beats Minnesota and the Phillies, and if Philadelphia wins next week, Detroit loses tonight, but wins next week, all 3 teams are 14-3. I don't know who has the tiebreak, though. So, but basically, if Detroit wins tonight, Philadelphia doesn't have any chance of getting the number 1 seed, because both Minnesota and Detroit would be 14-2. Philadelphia would be 13-3. But because Minnesota plays Detroit, one of those teams will have 15 wins, which Philadelphia can't get because they have 13 and they only have 1 game left. I hope I'm making this simple. I think I'm making it more difficult. I'm going to shut up. Purdy or Goff tonight need 15 to win. I would go Goff. It's a better team. He has a lot more on the line. He's been doing pretty well. I would go Goff. I mean, guys in the chat, let me know. I know all these games and all these points mean a lot. I would go Goff. Would anybody do Purdy over Goff? I would go Goff tonight. Down by 25. I have Goff and Gibbs. He has Kittle. Sneaky chance you're going to win. Goff's going to get 20. Gibbs will get 20. That's 40. And Kittle's lucky if he gets 10. And even if he gets 15, Goff and Gibbs probably, combined for at least 43. But Goff and Gibbs are probably both going to get 20 tonight. I mean, if Gibbs doesn't get at least 20, I'll be shocked. I'll be completely shocked. And I know you guys don't care whether or not I'm shocked. You just want to win your game. I get it. But like I've been saying, and it's my bad joke, but I keep repeating it, is, Gibbs walks in to the stadium and he already has 15 points. So I did the laugh again for those on YouTube. Right. Need Amon-Ra to get less than 12 points PPR. I complete the 3-peat. Yeah. I think you have like a 30% chance. I mean, Amon-Ra was getting I'm in half PPR. He was getting like 9 points there for a while. for like 2 or 3 weeks in a row. So it's an outside possibility that he gets 12 or less points. Yes, it definitely is. San Francisco is a lot tougher against wide receivers than they are against running backs. So it could very well happen. I don't think that Amon-Ra gets less than 12 points. They're going to need him. They got to win this game to have a chance to get the number 1 seed and also win their division. And I don't know which one's more important to them. I need a keeper pick too. Bowers, Brian Thomas, Kyren Williams, Bijan, or Henry. I would probably go. I would definitely go Bijan because he's young. I would consider Bijan and Kyren. If you don't want to pick 2 running backs, you could go probably Brian Thomas. He's had like 6 or 7 or 5 or 6, let's say, 5 or 6 weeks in a row that have been pretty good. Brian Thomas. Now he doesn't play on a great team. Now the problem with Derrick Henry is he is older. Will he continue to play? Like Bijan, definitely. You could go Bijan and Henry. My only concern with Henry is age is eventually going to catch up to him. But he could be really good next year. He could be okay the year after that. I just think Kyren Williams will be good for the next 3 or 4 years. Bijan definitely will be. And Brian Thomas has, as a rookie, played really great the last 6 or 7 games. So, but you could go Bijan and Henry. They probably have the most points out of all those names. My only concern with Bowers is with the Raiders, he may be gone and, get a big contract someplace and you might not hear from him a lot, or it might be a system thing, or maybe he stays with the Raiders and his points go down. But Bijan, yes. And I would go either between Kyren Williams being younger or you can go with Henry. I don't think Henry's been putting up the points recently that he did earlier in the season. So you got to think about that too. Hey, I'm up 45. An opponent has Gibbs and St. Brown. You think I got it? I think you asked this, right? I think Gibbs goes 20 or 25, and I think St. Brown goes 15 or 20. So you want them to get on the lower end of that. And even if they're on the higher end, Gibbs 25, St. Brown 20, that's 45. And, probably if both of them are approaching those numbers, they're going to be taken out of the game. Maybe even before that. If this is a blowout and for those guys to put up 45 points between the two of them, it's going to be one of 2 things. It's either going to be a blowout or it's going to be a shootout. You don't want a shootout because that means that they're going to stay in the game because Detroit has to win. You want it to be a blowout. So I would probably say you probably have a 50-50. I think I said this actually even earlier. Now it's reminding me of it. You probably have a 50-50, maybe 60-40% chance of winning. Just play it cool. Just know to get through the first half and see where everything is. Maybe they put a lot of attention on St. Brown and he doesn't get points. Look at what Terry McLaurin. I mean, the last 2 games he hasn't put up any points for Washington, and Zacchaeus got all the points yesterday from a wide receiver standpoint. So stranger things can happen, no doubt about it. Philly has no chance to get number 1 seed. They already locked up number 2. Okay, just great. I just wanted to make sure. I wasn't sure who had the potential. So really it comes down to whoever wins next week. But Detroit, in essence, I guess it would go to tiebreaks. Detroit could lose tonight, but then would have to beat Minnesota and would have the tiebreak. It depends on who is the tiebreak between Minnesota and Detroit then. It's so convoluted. So much little things going on. But Detroit probably wants to win tonight because they want to win their division, and they know that. I don't know if they have if they have the tie break, they lose tonight. They still have to beat Minnesota. It's better for them to win tonight. Well, if they win, then they have the tie record. I don't know. Are they going to play the whole game? I think they'll play the whole game. I don't think they have anything wrapped up. I would think that Detroit wants to win tonight so that they have the same record Because if they lose, let me just think about this for a second. If they lose, then they're 13-3 and they're one game back. Then they have to beat Minnesota. If they're tied, they still have to beat Minnesota. Well, if Minnesota beats them, yeah. My guess is they got to win out to win their division, or they got to win out to win their division because they'll be 13-3, and if they lose again, they won't even be close. I guess really they could lose tonight, Detroit, and win next week and be 14-3, and the Vikings could be 14-3. I don't know. I still think they're going to want to win. I mean, why not put that stuff in your own hands? Detroit has tiebreakers. So, yeah, Detroit could lose tonight. But I don't see how benching their players tonight, unless it's a blowout, helps them for next week. I mean, yes, they might not get injured, and next week is important. However, they know that they have to have one brutal of a battle next week. So, yeah, tonight's game doesn't matter for number one seed. No, I understand that because it's not going to matter until next week. So they could lose tonight. So you know what? They might bench some players. I just don't know how that. Maybe they look at it as the player then is ready to play next week. But you would figure that they would get their reps in anyway. But it will be a battle against Minnesota. So there might be some Detroit players who don't play all night. But you got to figure Goff is going to play at least a half, and he could put up some good numbers by then. Do I bench Jamo if I'm up 1 point and my opponent has no one else left? Yeah, I've done that before. And then I haven't done that before. I've done it and I haven't done it. My only concern is like, what if it goes the opposite way? So I know Detroit has the tiebreaker over Minnesota. Gibbs and St. Brown might not play the whole game because Detroit can lose this game. Although I can't imagine taking that mentality and then next week turning around like in a short week and then having a winning mentality other than I don't want to get my players hurt. Just the psychology of it all, I think, is messing me up right now. Yeah, Philly has no chance. Got it, Ethan. I appreciate everything you're telling me, Ethan. I really do. Yeah, I was kind of hoping for Minnesota as a Packers fan because I would rather face Detroit than Minnesota. Yeah, I don't think Dan Campbell's going to sit any key players, Ben. I would kind of agree with that. I just don't think that. Like, if you sit them tonight and you take it easy tonight, you gotta come back in like 5 days and play, or would it be my 6 days, whatever it is. So it's a short week. I just can't imagine that they would be sitting for too long. Yeah, I know. Tonight's game really doesn't mean anything. But I don't know that Dan Campbell sits everybody. I don't think, he might sit Goff though. He might sit Gibbs just so that they don't get pounded. I think the big game will be next Sunday night though. That's the big game. Do you bench Jamo? I mean, Jamo's. Do you think Jamo's going to get negative points though? Wide receivers don't really get negative points unless he catches a ball and then fumbles it. That would be about the only way. I mean, if that's what you want to do, be my guest. You can take him out, but I don't think there's going to be any stat corrections. I think everything's up to date. If you're up by 1 point, you can definitely sit Jamo and go on to win. Like I said, I've done both. I don't know that I would probably play him, but I understand what you're saying. When I was a little bit younger, I probably would have sat him just to make sure that I win, but I'd probably play him and say, if he'll get 2 points. He doesn't get negative points, you know, not usually. I'm up 33 points and my opponent has St. Brown. Am I good? Yeah, you're probably 75, 80% chance of winning. I mean, St. Brown would have to score at least 2 touchdowns to get up to 33. I mean, look at T. Higgins. He had 3 touchdowns and he had 35. Well, this is half PPR. He had 35 points, so probably 2 to 3 touchdowns easy. And if this turns into a blowout, they probably will sit the players. I mean, they would normally if it was a blowout. Should I start Jameson Williams or Isaac Garendo? Well, I think Jameson Williams probably gives you 9 to 14 points. I think Isaac Garendo gives you 9 to 25. So I think Jameson Williams is a steadier pick. He gets a lot of 10s and 11s and things like that. So feel good, put him in, you get 10 or 11. With Isaac Garendo, I think you have that higher ceiling. And if you want to score a few more points, you definitely put him in. Yeah, Ethan, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Need Goff 19 to win chip. Hopefully he gets it done before he sits. Yeah, I completely agree. Well, I mean, the way I think about it is if they're going to sit Goff, he probably already has 19 points. Sort of what you're saying. It may not be, in the first half or second half, but you know, I would guess that they're going to want him to have a good showing anyway. So, I'm guessing he's going to probably have, you know, 2 throws, 2 touchdown throws by then anyway, by the time he gets out of there. Or I would hope that he would. But in one half, it's hard to score 19 points. In 3 quarters, not so much. But in one half, it could be tough. I expect Goff to be around 20. If he's taken out at halftime, though, he maybe more like 15 or 16. Down 9 points. I have Debo. He has no one. Yeah, you gotta hope that Debo has a game like he had last week. Usually before that, he'd been getting 3s and 4s and 5s. Hey, Daniel Berry, how are you? So you gotta hope. Hey, Eitan, happy early birthday, man. Hope everything's going well for you. Yeah, you gotta hope that Debo has a game like he had last week. Otherwise, he's only gonna put up 3 or 4 points, probably. That's what he usually does. I mean, his range is like 3 points to 20 points. So you got to hope that he's on the other end of that spectrum for you to get caught up on those 9 points. Yeah, I would tend to agree with Ethan. If you want to play it safe, you can go with Williams. I don't feel good about Garendo and the O line. Well, the one thing about it is Detroit, you can run on, but Jennings or Jameson Williams, I would go Jameson Williams. Jennings is really hit or miss. Jennings' range is probably 6 to 20 points, and Jameson Williams is probably like 9 to 20 points. Jameson Williams is a little steadier. He's had 20 or 10 and 11 points 2 of the last 3 weeks, so he can give you right in there. Ryan says, down by 15, I have Kittle. I think it's a stretch for Kittle to get 15. He can. I would say you probably have a 30% chance of Kittle getting, over 15, maybe 25% chance. He's been sticking at like 10 or lower. Jordan Mark, Debo, or St. Brown. Well, if they take Goff out, I don't know what value St. Brown has because the game doesn't really mean a lot other than I think, Campbell will play these guys all for a half at least, and he doesn't want to lose to San Francisco or not lose by a lot. So I'd probably still go St. Brown because I guess he's probably going to have 10 points by the time he gets out of the game. I need 35 points, 2 spots. I have Debo, Jennings, and Jameson Williams. I need 35 points, 2 spots. I have Debo, Jennings, and Jameson Williams. Which 2 do you play? I'd play Jameson Williams, and then it's a question of Debo, whose range is like 3 to 20 points, and Jennings, whose range is probably like 6 to 20 points. Because it's like when one of them scores, the other one doesn't. Let me just see. I'll check with the experts on this one. Debo and Jennings. Let's see what the experts say. They're saying Debo. Let me just look this up. Debo. I'm not. See, Debo's had 21, 3, 4, 2, 2.6. He had 21 and a half PPR. Juwan Jennings, 7, 4, 24, 7, 6. So, and then he has 20. So I would probably go with Jennings only because over the last 4 or 5 weeks, he has more points than Debo. And when he has a bad game, it's like 6 or 7. When Debo does, it's like 3 or 4. Not Ethan. Guerendo or Jamo. I would probably go with Guerendo or Jamo probably gives you 10 to 14 points. I think Jamo gives you 10 to 14. I think Guerendo, or let's say it's 9 to 14. I think Guerendo gives you 9 to 20. But Jamo is good for, probably 10, 11, 12 points, pretty steady in that range. Brioche, you're back. I'll look for your question next. And Guerendo, you know, he could get as high as 20, 25. He's gotten 25 2 games ago, but the games before and after that game, he got 9 points. So Jamo's a little steadier. Guerendo probably, like I said, probably ends up somewhere between 10 to 14. But uh, I think it's tough to say that Guerendo gets like 20 or 25. You think Kittle will get over 9 points tonight? I think he probably has a 50% chance of getting over 9 points. What's he been up to? Let me get to you, Brioche. I'm sorry about that. I'm up 26 with St. Brown. My opponent has Gibbs and Jamo. Well, the one thing we're talking about now is, if Detroit's up by a lot, or even not, because they can lose this game, are they going to start pulling their players? Or if they pull Goff, that hurts at least St. Brown and Jamo directly, Steve. So, and I can't imagine they leave Gibbs in for that long. So I would probably go. I'm up 26 points with St. Brown. St. Brown might get 10, Gibbs 15, 20. I'm sort of going down a little bit on that. Jamo 10-ish. Yeah, you should be fine. I don't think Gibbs and Jamo, they might not even get up to 26 points tonight. Okay, getting back to Kittle, he's had 14, 8, 18, 1, 17, 13, 21. I mean, he's had 14, 8, 18, 1. The one is awful. But let's say his range is 8 to 14 on Kittle. So, and you were saying, I think Kittle probably gets 9 or more points tonight because they probably want to win. I just looked up, and Campbell says he is not resting starters and is going to go full on gas mode. Okay, well then that's great information, actually. So the game does have meaning, counter to what we were kind of thinking there for a while. My league is for $800. I'm up 26. Okay, hold on. Down by 5. I have Gibbs. Am I good? Yeah, I think so. Because is it Ethan? Who's the guy giving me all the good info? Is it Ethan? Something? Yeah, Ethan. Ethan scores 21. Yeah, let's just look up Campbell and Lions head coach makes decision on starters for Monday Night Football. While some teams tonight's game isn't meaningless for Detroit, but the result won't matter. Essentially, won't shake up their seeding. Mac Pat, if you listen to his quotes, this is who they are. They are built on grit. They go for it. They're going to go for it tonight. Now, again, I think you have to see how the game is flowing and what's happening. And I think they're going in with the mindset we're going to try to win this game again. But going into the game, their mindset is we are going out there to win the game, and we'll see how the game unfolds and how he handles it from there. He said, yeah, Campbell says they're going to keep playing. So, yeah, Ethan was, I mean, I don't have that same quote, but it looks like, look, if they're blown, look, if this is a shootout, he's going to keep his guys in there probably. Or maybe in the fourth quarter, he starts pulling everybody. But if it's a shootout, they're going to be putting up good numbers. If it's a blowout, they're taking people out of the game. All right. Like they might be taking them out in the third. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I don't think that it's going to be a blowout. San Francisco has a decent defense. So they are kind of playing for something. They're kind of playing for, they want to win, apparently, which, I don't mind that mentality. I mean, that's the mentality that you have to, get through the wall. And that's what football coaches like. All right, let's see what we got. I'm up 26. Yeah, Steve, I answered that, right? My opponent has Gibbs and Jamo. Okay, I'll answer the question again, this time with the knowledge that, they might play the whole game. St. Brown probably gives you 15 if they play the whole game. Gibbs probably gives you 20. Jamo probably gives you 10. You're probably good. St. Brown's probably going to get a third of what Gibbs and Jamo put up together. So if they put up 30, he'll get 10. And if they put up 30 with your 10, or if St. Brown puts up 10, you're up by 36, you win. Guerendo or Debo tonight? I would probably go Guerendo because, Debo had 20, 25 last week. But the games before that, he was really low in 3, 4, 5 points, those kinds of things. I don't expect the 20, 25 points to continue tonight. I think Guerendo has at least shown that when the 3 games that he's kind of been the main person, he's gotten 9 points and he's gotten 25 points. So I would go Guerendo because on his bad games he gets at least 9 and Debo gets like 3 or 4. Up 12, I have Goff, St. Brown, Laporta versus Gibbs. Goff, yeah, Goff probably stays in the game, for at least 15 points. St. Brown probably 10. Laporta, let's just say 5. 25, 30. Gibbs might get 20. So yeah, you're good if you're up by 12. Jennings or Jameson Williams tonight. I would go Jameson Williams because Jennings has a ceiling, Jamo has a ceiling, let's just call it 20. But when Jennings doesn't score, it's like 5 or 6. When Jamo doesn't score, it's like 10 or 11. So I would rather go with Jameson Williams thinking that you might get 10 and you still have that ceiling that might go as high as 20. However, if you're worried about will they play Jamo the whole night, you can look at it like, well, maybe I'll go with Jennings because he'll probably play the whole game. But remember, Jennings has played whole games and only gotten like 6 points. Jamo usually gets around 10. It's really hard to predict this with I'm reading this and Ethan was so nice to do the research and it says that Dan Campbell's going to play his guys and they're all about grit and people aren't going to sit and that's what fantasy owners want to hear. But the way I look at it is if it's a blowout, they're taking people out. Now, is it going to be a blowout? Probably not. San Francisco has a decent defense, but it could. I can't predict that at all. So I'm guessing that these Lions play at least 3 quarters. That's kind of what I'm gauging this by. It is a game that won't change their standing, but I think from a sign of toughness, Campbell wants to win this game. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think Campbell wants to win this game, and that's what it's all about. It is really it is really tough to be in my chair, and I'm not saying you guys should feel bad for me, but it's really tough to figure this out. And it's tough for you guys. It's especially tough for you guys. Bro, I meant down by 12. Okay. Wait. Down by 12, I have Goff, St. Brown, Laporta versus Gibbs. Okay. Let's say a whole game. Whole game, Goff gets 20 or 25, St. Brown gets 15 or 20. Let's say they get low, 20 and 15. That's 35. Laporta gets 10. That's 45. So you're up by 33. If they play a whole game, I think you win. If they only play a half game, I think it's going to be relatively close because Gibbs could have 15 or 20, so he's up 27. Goff might have 10 or 15. St. Brown could just have 5. Laporta could have 5. So you'll probably want these guys to play at least 3/4 of a game tonight. I'm down by 3, and I have Amon-Ra and Gibbs, and opponent has Debo. I think you're good unless Debo repeats what he did last week. But when he's not scoring 20 points, he's usually scoring between 3 and 5. So his lead could be no more than about 8. And then you have Amon-Ra and Gibbs. And even if they only play one half, you're probably going to get more than 10 points between the two of them in one half if they both play. I streamed earlier and it was tough answering these questions tonight because of the uncertainty. It's impossible. Pitcher Rendoni, it's impossible. Yeah, you have to give it ranges, floors and ceilings. You have to say, "Hey, look, I don't think they're going to play more than a half, but if they play a third of the game or 3/4 of a game, it might work." Yeah, I don't do this a lot. It does get hard to be in your position. Yeah, I mean it's virtually impossible. I mean, Dan Campbell's a guy that's saying, Ethan, and it looks like he's been saying, "Hey, look, I'm going to play my guys. I'm going to play my guys." Now next week, I just assume, you got to find the team that has to win to get into the playoffs or to get the number 1 seed or to win their division. That's what you have to look for. And someone said it earlier, with Saquon sort of, the number 2 position filled, or however you want to look at it, uh, you might want to pick up Gainwell rather than Saquon and hope that he can score some points. But that also means Jalen Hurts probably isn't playing. And so how effective will it's really kind of a sucky thing that fantasy does this, and I wish that they didn't, because I play Yahoo Fantasy for this very reason. They end it all after week 17. They've always, well, for most of the time that I can remember, they ended a week early so you don't get into this. Because I knew, like, when I was playing fantasy 20 years ago on Yahoo, you know, there were some leagues I was in where it was the last week that you had to play, and it was impossible. It was impossible to figure out because all year you've been putting Josh Jacobs in as a running back, let's say, okay? And then now for week 18, you got to pick somebody up because he's probably not going to play. And that's what makes it tough. That's what really, 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 you almost have to redraft your entire team based on sort of what you think they might do, because we haven't seen enough of Gainwell, but Saquon Barkley's probably not going to play. So you have to consider putting in a running back. And then it ends up being a crapshoot. Like, oh, did I pick the right guy? Almost like picking Green Bay's wide receivers who are going to put up points. Yeah, it's a lot harder for the NFC. Yeah. KC and Buffalo probably are the only ones resting. I mean, off the top of my head, without digging really deep. But Saquon wants to break the record. But here's the thing: once Saquon breaks the record, he's probably done. They'll probably give him the ball as much as they can in the first half, but then it's all over. So yeah, I mean, to a certain point, yes. Now he's also said, Saquon, he said it publicly, that he doesn't care if what's it, Sirianni, if he says play Sirianni's he's like, if Sirianni wants me to play, fine, because I listened to the quote. Or if he wants me to play, fine. If he wants me to sit, fine. Well, of course they want him to break the record, but the other question becomes, how much time are you going to put into that? Like, are you going to say to him before the game, hey, we'll give you a half to break the record? I really don't want you getting hurt. What if he's at 42 yards after 2 quarters? Do you keep him playing? Everyone's saying the Lions are going to sit their starters. Okay. Let's see. And then you have quotes by football people saying Dan Campbell wants to win and isn't going to sit people. Let me do a little research here. Will the Lions rest the starters? Despite coming off a short week and having the division locked up, Campbell is against resting his starters. This is from December 30th at 5:40 p.m. Eastern Time. Dan Campbell insists that the Detroit Lions will go all out on Monday night against San Francisco. Despite coming off a short week and having the division locked up, Campbell is against resting his starters. How does he have the division locked up? If he loses tonight and loses next week, how does he have the division locked up? What am I missing here, guys? Right now he's ahead. Okay, let me just do the math. If Detroit loses, they're 13-3. Minnesota is 14-2. Minnesota and Detroit are obviously in the same division. If Minnesota beats Detroit, they win the division. He doesn't have the division locked up. What is it? Misinformation people are going off of? Williams or Debo? Let's go with something I can answer. Williams is probably steadier because he gets 10 or 11 points. Debo, they both have higher ceilings, but Williams is steadier because his ceiling is like 10 to 20. Debo's is like 3 to 20. All right. I would probably go Williams because you're almost guaranteed, not that you're guaranteed, they have to play the games, but you know that he's probably going to get at least 10 points. Here's the thing, guys. This report here, and who's it by? This is by Pro Football, and it says Campbell insists the Detroit Lions will go all out Monday night against San Francisco, despite coming off a short week and having the division locked up. They don't have the division locked up. Am I missing something? Like, I'm only if they win versus Minnesota. It's not locked up, pitcher, right? Rendoni? They have to win. They don't have anything locked up. I think some of this is misinformation. Detroit, for the first half of the season, was the top team in the NFC. Let's just call it what it is. They're not quite that way anymore. Their defense has a lot of injuries. They are 13-2. If they lose tonight, they're 13-3. That's 16 games. Minnesota is 14-2. They will be a full game up over Detroit. Next week, Minnesota plays Detroit. If Minnesota wins that game, they are 15-2, and Detroit goes to 13-4. They do not have their division locked up. Anyway. Yeah, I think whoever wrote the article is high. I guess the game versus San Francisco won't change that though. I think the game against San Francisco is that whether Detroit wins or loses tonight, it doesn't really matter because it comes down, since they have the tie break, they can lose tonight and beat Minnesota and win the division. All right. So they're in the hunt for the division, even if they lose tonight, because they have the tie break on Minnesota. But the situation is they can't lose tonight and lose next week. Then they don't win the division. They'll make the playoffs, but they won't win the division. And so I think some of this information is not 100%. Look, the way I look at it is I'm just moving forward with the thought process of the starters are going to start for about a half a game. If they play 3/4 of the game, if they play the full game for the Lions, I think that's pretty decent. I don't know that. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it. I think they're probably going to play 3/4 of the game, but I take that conservative approach where it's less. But Dan Campbell doesn't want to just lose tonight. No way. He doesn't want to lose. The only the I think the scenarios that they're out of the game are this. The players are taken out of the game. Either they have a huge lead and they're taken out of the game. I think that's what Dan Campbell wants. He wants everybody to put up huge numbers, and in the third quarter, he starts pulling all of his starters. Dan Campbell wants to win tonight. He said it. There's quotes. It's all over the internet. He wants to win tonight. Now, some of that could be window dressing, but that's the way it definitely is. Is Saquon going to play good next week? Well, he's going to want to try to break the record. I looked at USA and they said they can only be the 5th seed if they lose or tie both games. Yeah, I mean, they're in the playoffs if you're talking about Detroit. They're in the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. It comes down to a question of, if you're talking about Detroit, it comes down to, do they want to win their division and be the number 1 seed? Up 12, they have Goff left. If Goff plays 3 quarters, you're probably not going to win, Josh. If Goff plays a half a game, you might win. I'm kind of thinking that I'm taking the safe approach, the conservative approach, and saying Detroit starters will be there for a half, or Goff will be there for a half. And then once Goff leaves, the whole offense kind of goes with him, kind of, right? All right. D-Dog asked Debo or Jennings. I would probably go Jennings because when he has a bad day, he gets 5 or 6 points. When Debo has a bad day, he gets 3 or 4. They both have really high ceilings, 20 points ish. So I would probably go Jennings over Debo. Up 12, Saquon. Yeah. Well, this is why, this is still week 17. This is just typical stuff that you have to deal with. But I do think that, ESPN and any other service that you guys use that has you playing week 18 or the league that you joined, I would probably tell them like, hey guys, why don't we end the league in week 17? My theory, and let me just tell you what my defense of all this is. Need 11 points, Debo or Jennings. I would probably go Jennings only you need 11 points. They both have a ceiling of about 20, but Jennings, his floor is like 6, Debo's is like 3. I know 6 points doesn't matter to you, but what I'm saying is Jennings' range is smaller than Debo's. That's all I can really tell you between the two. Anyway, I would go like if you're in a league at work or with your friends, I would say, guys, why don't we end this at week 17? Because when we go through week 18, this is what happens. Okay, I have to worry, like the teams that have been in first, second, third, fourth place, the ones in the championship, now have to look for other players to fill those positions. It's almost like somewhere between week 17 and the championship game, I have to pick up new players. And I don't know what they're going to be like. That's not necessarily fair if you want to win the championship. You're not, truthfully speaking, it's the only kind of game I've ever heard of where the players that got you to the dance, I'm just being play the people who got you to the dance. The players who got you to the dance aren't the ones that are going to win the championship for you. May not even be starting that game. It's just not fair. To me, it's not fair for fantasy. I want it to end at week 17, and week 17 even had some of its questions like this. So I would, if it's a league where you have friends or work or something like that, or neighbors or family, whatever it is, I'd say, hey, can we end it in week 17? Because what happens is whoever it is in the championship next year, for week 18, they're pulling players that they've never even looked at before. The people who got them there, picking up so and so off the waiver wire, and they've been playing really great, and then all of a sudden they sit. Now I got to find somebody else. I have to redraft half my team with players that never played for me before. It just doesn't seem right. Anyway, that's my soapbox. Gibbs 4 over reception. Jennings 64.5 reception year over. Kittle 67. Goff no interception. I don't know what that is. I don't know what you're saying, Justin. Is there a question in there? Gibbs 4 over reception. Oh, you want me to answer those things? Oh, I don't do betting. Jennings 64 reception yards. I think Gibbs can get 4 receptions. I don't think Jennings gets over 64 yards. Kittle under 64, 67, yes. Goff, no interceptions. Yeah, I think Goff can go no interceptions. He had that one bad game. And Gibbs a touchdown, probably. Yeah, I would say everything there, but Jennings 64 yards is doable. Debo, Williams, or Reynolds. Now we're picking up Reynolds. I would probably go Williams. Now Reynolds could play 2 quarters. It's really a question of when Gibbs comes out or how much time does Reynolds actually get. That's the difference in my head. You know, if Reynolds comes in the second half and gets, the bulk of the carries or catches, he could put up 15 points. I mean, players do that in a half. So, but he might not even come in, number one, according to Dan Campbell and what we're reading, or if he does come in, it might be just for a quarter. I mean, these are not easy questions. Like, it is really unfair that we have to worry about all these players sitting. Okay. And the NFL is not going to make a rule like the NBA did, like, oh, you have to play this, you have to do this, because they don't want these guys getting hurt. Because not theoretically, realistically speaking, these are the stars on their teams. Okay. Quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. That's who everybody knows. All right. And so they're not going to say, oh, well, because they want them in the playoffs. It gets more viewers in there, Oh, Justin Jefferson. Oh, Jamar Chase. Oh, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jared Goff. All these players, they get people's attention. So it just stinks that you play this entire season and then you have to worry about picking up Reynolds because, at some point Gibbs is probably coming out of the game. And then what is Reynolds going to do? You there's no barometer for that. There's no metric reading for that. That game has not taken place where Reynolds, plays the second half of a game. We don't have anything to measure that. There hasn't been a game like that all season. Now you could say with Montgomery and Gibbs, they traded off, but it's Reynolds. It's Reynolds in that position. And quite frankly, there's a reason that Reynolds is a number 3 guy and a running back as a running back on that team. There's a reason that cornerbacks are cornerbacks, safeties are safeties, and neither one of them are wide receivers. That's why a lot of times those guys drop the ball. I'm not saying I can catch one of those balls. I'm not saying I'm better than them, but the good hands people with the speed become wide receivers. The not so good hands people with the speed become cornerbacks, safeties, those kinds of positions. Down 16. I have Gibbs. He has Lions kicker. Pat, if they play a regular game, if Gibbs stays in all 4 quarters, you probably win the game because Gibbs probably gets you 25. Okay. But if Gibbs plays 3 quarters, unless it's like a blowout and he's already scored his 15 or 20 or 25, wow, you have to make up though that 16. Even on a good day, Gibbs might get 20. You got to assume the kicker gets at least 5 or 6. I think you have a 40% chance of winning. I think them having the kicker and a 16-point advantage makes it real tough. And the fact that Gibbs may not play the whole game. I got it with the parlay. Yeah, it was the Jennings receptions of 64 yards is the one I didn't think that I wasn't feeling that could happen. I'm down 28. I have Amon-Ra and my flex is between Debo, Guerendo, Jennings. Who do I start? Okay, I would probably go Guerendo because Jennings and Debo are Debo's range is probably like 3 to 20. Jennings' range is 6 to 20. Guerendo's range is probably like 9 to 20 because he scored 25 and the game before and the game after he had 9 points. So I would probably go Guerendo because it's a smaller range of points, meaning in essence, I'm not guaranteeing this, but I'm saying he should get at least 9 points for you. Debo or Reynolds? Oh, Debo, Williams, or Reynolds. User 564. Okay. Again, with Reynolds, my only concern is how long is he in the game? How many times, does he come in? Is he in full time for a half, for a quarter? It's really, I would almost go with Williams because of that. Debo, even in full games, yes, he had a good week last week, 21 points or whatever it was. But even in good weeks, he gets 3, 4, and 5 points. Like Williams should have that in a quarter or in a half. Now Reynolds, we don't know. And that's the one thing that makes it tough this time of year when picking fantasy is he going to be is he going to play 2 full quarters as kind of the number one back tonight? Or is he going to play 1 quarter? Or we're seeing these stats and these quotes, not stats. We're seeing this information and these, reading these quotes that say Dan Campbell's probably going to leave his starters in. So that means Gibbs would still be playing. I got to figure, though, if there's a decent lead, or maybe for the fourth quarter, they might pull Goff and Gibbs. If it's a 10 or 3-point possession or a 3-possession lead, Debo or Jameson. Look, Debo in full games gets 3 to 6 points. His ceiling is 20. Jameson has gotten 10 or 11 all the way up to 10. Since Jameson's window is smaller, 10 sort of being the floor, 20 being the ceiling, I would probably go Jameson. I have St. Brown versus Jennings and Lions kicker. I'm up 8. Am I good? I have St. Brown. I'm assuming you're meaning like they have Jennings. They have Jennings and Lions kicker. Well, Jennings could have 5 points. He could have 20 points. You got to hope that Jennings doesn't have a Jennings game where he puts up 20 points. Then all bets are kind of off. Lions kicker, let's just say he gets you some. Hey, Beto's here. What's up, Beto? Getting ready for the big game tonight, watching everything. Beto is a new league champion in fantasy. We're all excited about that. So way to go, Beto. Nice job. Way to go, way to go, way to go. So, yeah, I think you should be fine. Williams or Debo against Jennings currently tied. Williams or Debo? I would probably go Williams over Debo only because Debo on his bad days when he's played a full game gets 3 to 5 points. Williams, I don't know if he's going to play a full game. That's the only thing that's killing me here. Beto, MB21, and Elver. Trying to sort out who's actually going to play. I'm down 32, but have St. Brown and Gibbs left. Oh, and have Jennings on bench. Can I still win? But I have St. Brown and Gibbs left. Well, if St. Brown and Gibbs play the whole game, you're probably in really good shape. I figure Gibbs gets at least 20, St. Brown gets at least 15. I don't know what you mean by have Jennings on the bench. But if it's a blowout, they're not going to play the whole game. But if it's a blowout, they probably already got their points. Dan Campbell says that he wants to win tonight, which means, and he got a party hat, Beto. Thank you for the party hat. Need 24 from Goff. So my guess on here, Rex, is that if St. Brown and Gibbs can play the whole game, you're going to win. If they play 3, or definitely if they only play a half, you're probably not going to win unless it's a blowout. 3 quarters, it's going to be real tight. Real tight. You better hope if they play, you better hope that they get their points in the first half because they might not, play much in the second. Okay. Now, Ethan's saying Campbell said if they are up by 2 or 3 touchdowns, that starters will be out in the third or fourth quarters from Adam Schefter. Okay, well that makes sense. So they're not going to put up points, but if you read into that, being up by 2 or 3 touchdowns, especially being up by 3 touchdowns, okay, that means 21-0. They're putting up their points. Their star players probably have a good chunk of the points that are out there, meaning Goff, Gibbs will, run the ball well in the first half. What you have to look for is a big first half from Detroit. That's what makes all of this safe. All right. MB21, who did send a gift, thank you for the rose, need 24 from Goff. Look, if Goff plays 4 quarters, I don't think he's going to play 4 quarters, but if he plays 4 quarters, meaning apparently according to Ethan, and Ethan scores 21, has been really good with information tonight. So Ethan, make sure I don't recognize the name, but that doesn't mean anything. Now I will recognize the name. Definitely follow. Don't forget to follow, guys. I'd love for you to follow me. I'll be live through Sunday's game next week when everybody's fantasy season's over. I'll be talking daily fantasy, and I'll also start talking about basketball fantasy. So please hit that follow so you know when I'm on. Would love to have you on board. But Ethan has great information. Campbell said, according to Adam Schefter, that if they're up by 2 or 3 touchdowns, that starters might come out in the third or fourth quarters, which to me kind of says if they're up by probably 3 in the third, they'll probably come out. And that number 1 would be Goff. Number 2 probably is Gibbs. Okay, those are the guys that they really don't want to get injured, obviously, besides St. Brown. But, if they're up by 2 in the third, maybe he waits till the fourth to take them out. That's just my guess. But if they're up by 2 or 3, you got to figure that it's, 28 to 14, 35 to 14. So a lot of those starters that were worried about, the St. Browns, the Gibbs, even Williams to a certain extent, will be touching those numbers, or they'll be starting to get in that range. Goff will be around 20 at that point, as long as he's passed the ball at least 2 or 3 times for a touchdown at that point. Gibbs will be over 15. St. Brown will probably be approaching or over 15. Jameson Williams will probably be at around 10, if that's the case. So let's look at it in that context. All right, let's look what Elver has. Elver, I'm up 140. I'm up by 144. He has Gibbs and Jamo left. Oh, come on, Elver. Yes, you're up by 144 points. There's no way Gibbs and Jamo, even one full PPR. What do you think? Gibbs gets 50, and even if Jamo gets 50, did you put an extra 4 in? Are you up by 14 maybe, Elver? Oh, well, you're welcome, Elver. I just saw that. You're up by 144? Are you serious? Yeah, Gibbs and Jim. I mean, even dude, look, what was the most points by one player this season that wasn't a quarterback? Off the top of my head, it's Ja'Marr Chase, right? With 49. Well, that was a half PPR. But even if Gibbs gets 50 and Jamo gets 50, you still win by 44 points. You're up by 144 points. Yeah, you're just excited and happy as well as you should be. Boy, I mean, think about it like this. There are teams like both of my teams in the championship game didn't even score 144 points. Now, the difference is I am in a half PPR, and I had the unfortunate stupid decision to start Indianapolis's defense against the Giants, and they were -4. Well, thank you, Elver. It's all thanks to me. I really do appreciate it. That is awesome, dude. Great job. Ertz came through yesterday. Yes, Ertz did big time. I didn't necessarily see that one coming. Higgins, McBride, and Thielen carried. Yes. Yeah. Higgins, McBride, Thielen. Yeah, definitely. I mean, Higgins, who knew? Yeah. I mean, Thielen too. Thielen's a little bit older, I think, but he's one to watch for next year, especially. Let's face it, Bryce Young has come a long way since week 1 and 2. I mean, week 1 and 2, they wanted him out of any Carolina, north, south, east, west. They wanted him, probably like in Canada. But now he's winning ball games. He's keeping them in the mix. It's all good. I'm down 22.5 points with Goff going tonight. My opponent has Jennings. What do you think? Well, if Goff plays a full game, or they can put up a lot of points in the first 2 or 3 quarters before he's taken out, you'll be fine. It's just it's maybe a 50-50. Well, I would say you probably have a 30% chance of winning because Golf might be taken out with 15 points tonight. It just might happen. You say Jamo will get 10. I need 10.16 points from Jamo for $10,000. Look, again, if they start taking the players out of the game after the first half, or if they even take Golf out after the first half, I think that changes the entire dynamic of the team, and it's unknown. Like, like, like if they take Golf out, but they leave the other starters in. Let's say something happens with Golf and he almost gets injured, or whatever the case is. He's out of the game. And Campbell got scared and he takes him out. Maybe the new quarterback throws a Jamo. Maybe he doesn't. I'm just saying 10 because I think Jamo's out after the third quarter. Definitely. I think most of them are coming out. I'm just preparing myself. I'm thinking they either come out at half or after the third quarter. So I'm giving myself sort of a range. And what can Jamo do in a half? Maybe get 10 points in with another quarter. Maybe he gets 10 to 12 that high. So I would probably say you're at 50-50 right now, Nick. And I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm trying to give the information that my buddy Ethan. All right. Take care, Ethan. Yeah, I gotta go watch the game. Oh, the game's on, guys. Bob the Lego Man's back. I'm back. Hey, Bob the Lego Man, what's going on? All right. So, Nick, I'm just thinking that I can kind of see where Jamo gets 10 points. If he gets any more than that, you deserve that $10,000. There's no doubt about it. I just think Jamo's out after three quarters, and there are entire games where he's only scored 10 or 11 points recently. Okay, Golf probably gets at least, I'm guessing, before he's pulled, because he's going to be pulled if they're up big. If they're up big, that means Golf has earned some points. I'm guessing Golf gets pulled and has right around 15 points, but he could have a little bit more. But I think he gets pulled around 15 points. Because that's like a half if they're really good, or that's like three quarters if it begins to be a blowout. Because Ethan, who left to watch the game, and I'll be doing that in a little bit, but said that the quote from Campbell was, if they're up by 2 or 3 touchdowns, he might start taking starters out in the third and fourth quarter. So they're going to have to play probably the first half, which means you want that first half to be controlled by the Lions and your guys to be putting up all of that, all of their points as quickly as possible. St. Brown, the same thing. I mean, you got to figure that St. Brown, I was saying St. Brown, if he plays the whole game, is either 15 or 20 points. It's probably more like 10 or 15 tonight for him. Realistically speaking, if he goes three quarters, it's probably 10 to 15 for St. Brown. I was saying 15 to 20. It's probably 10 to 15. I don't think any Lions player plays a full, I don't think St. Brown, Williams, Gibbs, or Golf play 4 quarters. I think they all play at least 3, and that's about it. Or I shouldn't say at least 3, that they play up to about 3, and then somewhere thereafter, give or take 5 minutes of game time, they're out of the game. That's the way I'm looking at it. Hoping defense for 49ers show up. Greenlaw is out. Over-under is also high. I don't like that. Yeah, the over-under being high means it's a shootout, which actually can help all the people worried about the Lions players, because if the first half is a shootout, because, it could be 24-20 at half, which is relatively a shootout, and they're not going to take people out probably until after the third, if it's close like that, is my guess. So they could have, Golf could have 20, 25 points in 3 quarters. But he could also have 10 to 15 in 3 quarters and be taken out. All right, everybody, I'm going to go watch the game. Enjoy, have fun. I will talk to you all later. Thank you very much for watching tonight.